Hi all. In this video, we are going to discuss about the solution to handle exceptions in Java program. In our earlier videos, we discussed the fundamental aspects of exceptions. We saw a small code snippet and we understood the way how an exception occurs and what happens if we don't handle it properly. Technically, from the syntax point of view, we need to understand how we can offer a solution for an exception that might occur. So being a programmer or developer, we need to predict the exception that might occur in our code. So while we are designing an application, we need to keep the exception handling as one key parameter in order to avoid an unexpected event at runtime, or literally to handle an unexpected event that might occur at runtime so that your applications won't get terminated abruptly. Now, the solution is pretty simple. We have a piece of code, and the piece of code might end up with a problem, or an error at runtime. So the code might throw an exception, which could be an custom exceptions like my custom exceptions, or it could be a file not found exceptions, or it could be a SQL exceptions. So those snippet of codes which might end up with an exception need to be traced out by the programmer, need to be predicted by the programmer pretty well in advance. And those code snippets have to be embraced with a try block. So we have a block called try block. So try is a keyword in Java, and we'll be using a block defined with the try statement so that the piece of code is protected within the block called try. Now what happens once we try out for any exception that might occur in a code? Once the exception occurs, the try block will lead the executional flow to the next immediate block called catch block. The catch block is the one who is going to catch the exception that's occurring from a try block. So the catch statements or the catch parameters will take the type of exceptions that need to be handled. So catch is literally a place where you're going to actually handle the exception and suppress the exception there itself and ensure the rest of the programs are getting executed without any hassles. So if you look at the catch block, the catch seems to be more like a method signature, but literally it doesn't have any return type, it doesn't have any access modifiers like public, private, or protected, right? But it's more similar like a method signature. So we have a name called catch, which is a keyword again, and it takes a parameter, and in the parameter we are saying what type of an exception need to be caught by the catch block. So we are defining it as an exception, and if any exception occurs in the try block, immediately the catch block is going to catch that exception. And what you have to do post catching that exception post handling the exception, what you have to do need to be described inside the catch block. So this is going to be your catch block code, and this is going to be your try block code. If anything goes wrong in the try block code, it immediately jumps its executional flow to the catch, and the catch will able to handle the type of exception that's occurring on the code, and the rest of the logic that's relevantly required once after the exception occurs need to be written inside the catch block, and post that the rest of your program statements will get executed without any abrupt terminations. So code that catch all types of checked and runtime exceptions goes into this catch block. So basically the solution is pretty simple. You just need to embrace your snippet of code which might occur with an exception with a try, and handle that exception with an appropriate catch. That's more important, because you cannot have a catch with the SQL exception for an exception that occurring with array index out of bounds exception. If the code is going to raise an array index out of bounds exception, and if you're going to catch with SQL exception, it doesn't make any sense. So obviously there's no point in having a catch at that point of time. So even if you have a handler, you need to have a proper handler. So you try out for an exception, and the type of exception that might occur on the code need to be handled by the proper catch. So the catch should be listed with the proper exception classes so that you will be able to handle the exception and ensure your program doesn't get terminated abruptly. So in the next video, we are going to discuss more in detail about the hierarchy of exception classes. That's very important because we are getting into more technical understanding of the exception mechanisms in Java. So we need to understand who is the topmost exception class that is there, and how we can able to split those hierarchies and understand when to use which type of exceptions. So thank you all.